The morning air hung thick with the scent of fresh rain and teenage anxiety as Lincoln Middle School buzzed with its usual Monday chaos. Sneakers squeaked against polished floors, locker doors slammed shut like gunshots, and the cacophony of adolescent voices echoed through corridors that had witnessed thousands of ordinary days. But this Monday would shatter every definition of ordinary. Atlas, a 5-year-old Belgian Malinois with eyes like molten amber and muscles coiled beneath his black and tan coat, moved through the hallway with the silent precision of a predator. His handler, Officer Marcus Grady, barely noticed the dog's sudden shift in demeanor until Atlas froze mid-stride, every fiber of his being locked onto something invisible to human senses. The air seemed to thicken around them as Atlas positioned himself like a sentinel before the girl's restroom, his hackles rising like a warning flag against his spine. Lena Marquez approached with her glittery silver backpack, bouncing against her hip, unaware that she was walking toward a moment that would either save hundreds of lives or destroy them all. When Atlas released a growl so deep it seemed to emerge from the earth itself, vibrating through the floor tiles and into the bones of every student within earshot, the hallway fell silent as if someone had sucked all the oxygen from the building. Phones emerged from pockets like weapons, recording what they assumed would be another viral school moment, completely unaware they were documenting the first minutes of what could have been Lincoln Middle School's darkest day. Officer Grady's hands trembled as he lifted the small black case from Lena's backpack, its weight somehow heavier than physics should allow. The moment it touched the cold tile floor, Atlas's growl transformed into something primal, a sound that seemed to reach back through millions of years of evolution to warn of mortal danger. Inside the case, a tangle of red and green wires wrapped around what appeared to be batteries, all connected to a small device with a blinking red light that pulsed like a dying heartbeat. The hallway erupted in gasps and whispered prayers as students pressed themselves against lockers, their faces drained of color. Lena collapsed to her knees, her voice breaking as she sobbed, "I didn't know what it was. I swear I didn't know." But Grady's attention was no longer on the sobbing girl or the panicking students. Atlas had begun something Grady had never seen before. The dog was pacing in tight circles, his nose lifted toward the ceiling vents, his body language screaming that this was just the beginning. As sirens wailed in the distance and the bomb squad raced toward the school, Grady felt ice flow through his veins as he realized the terrifying truth. If Atlas was still agitated after they'd found one device, it could only mean one thing. There were more bombs hidden throughout Lincoln Middle School, and they were running out of time to find them before someone decided to complete whatever nightmare they had planned. The red light continued its hypnotic pulse, counting down to something no one wanted to imagine. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel K9 Loyal Souls, where we uncover true stories of animals' bravery you won't believe until you see it. In the realm of canine law enforcement, there exists a bond between human and canine that transcends ordinary partnership, reaching into the supernatural territory of intuition and instinct. That can mean the difference between life and death. This is the story of Atlas, a Belgian Malinois whose extraordinary senses would uncover a conspiracy that could have claimed hundreds of innocent lives at Lincoln Middle School. What began as an ordinary Monday morning in suburban America would evolve into a heart-stopping race against time, where a dog's incredible ability to detect danger would prove more valuable than any piece of technology ever created. Atlas wasn't just any police dog. He was a 5-year-old veteran of the K9 safety program, trained in explosive detection, suspect apprehension, and search and rescue operations. His powerful frame carried him through school corridors with the grace of an apex predator, his amber eyes constantly scanning for threats that existed beyond human perception. His handler, Officer Marcus Grady, had worked with Atlas for 3 years, developing the kind of trust that only comes from facing danger together, learning to read every subtle shift in the dog's body language as clearly as reading words on a page. But nothing in their extensive training had prepared them for what they would encounter on this particular morning, when a carefully orchestrated plot would test every skill they had developed together. The story unfolding at Lincoln Middle School represents more than just another successful K9 operation. It's a testament to the incredible sensory capabilities that allow dogs to perceive threats that remain completely invisible to human detection, processing chemical signatures at molecular levels that would escape even the most sophisticated electronic equipment. While students moved through their morning routines, laughing about weekend adventures and complaining about upcoming tests, completely unaware of the danger lurking in their midst. Atlas's superior olfactory system was already processing warning signals that would have remained undetected by any human sense. This tale of heroism isn't just about one dog's remarkable abilities. It's about how the ancient partnership between humans and canines continues to evolve in our modern world, where the threats we face have become increasingly complex and deadly, requiring instincts that have been honed through millions of years of evolution. As we delve into the events that transpired at Lincoln Middle School, we'll witness how Atlas's extraordinary instincts would expose a carefully orchestrated plot that threatened to shatter the safety and innocence of an entire community, proving once again that sometimes the most advanced security technology comes with 4 legs, an unshakable loyalty to protect those who cannot protect themselves, and senses so acute they can detect danger before it even has a chance to fully materialize in our human world of limited perception. The first rays of dawn filtered through the tall windows of Lincoln Middle School, casting long shadows across hallways that buzzed with the familiar energy of another Monday morning that would soon transform into something no one could have imagined. Students poured through the entrance doors like a river of backpacks and teenage chatter, their voices creating a symphony of normalcy that filled every corner of the building, with the sound of youth and innocence that was about to be tested in ways they never dreamed possible. Lena Marquez walked among them, her silver backpack catching the fluorescent light as she navigated through clusters of friends sharing weekend stories and complaints about upcoming tests, completely unaware that hidden within her seemingly innocent school bag was a device that would change everything she thought she knew about safety and trust. The weight of the mysterious item pressed against her back, but she dismissed it as just another textbook or forgotten lunch, never imagining that someone had deliberately placed an object in her possession that could have torn apart the fabric of her entire community. Officer Marcus. Grady began his morning patrol with Atlas at his side, the dog's powerful frame moving with fluid grace through the corridors they had walked countless times before, each step a testament to years of training and partnership that had forged them into one of the most effective K9 teams in the district. The Belgian Malinois' amber eyes scanned the environment with professional alertness, his nose constantly processing the complex bouquet of scents that filled the school, teenage perfume mixed with anxiety sweat, industrial cleaning supplies that couldn't quite mask the underlying mustiness of an aging building, cafeteria food being prepared in distant kitchens, and hundreds of other familiar odors that painted an olfactory map of daily life that only he could fully comprehend. But something was different this morning, something that made Atlas's steps slow and his head tilt with the kind of curiosity that Grady had learned to recognize as the precursor to discovery. The dog's extraordinary senses, capable of detecting scent molecules at concentrations nearly unimaginable to humans, began picking up chemical signatures that didn't belong in this environment of learning and growth. At first, it was subtle, just a trace of something metallic and acrid that seemed to drift through the hallway like an invisible warning carried on air currents that spoke of danger in a language only Atlas could understand. The scent triggered something deep in his training, memories of controlled explosions and chemical compounds that had been drilled into his consciousness through countless hours of practice and repetition. Atlas's training kicked in automatically, his body language shifting from casual patrol mode to heightened alertness that transformed him from a friendly school dog into a finely tuned instrument of detection and protection. Atlas's transformation was immediate and profound, like watching a switch flip in the mind of a perfectly calibrated machine designed for one purpose: detecting danger before it could claim innocent lives. His ears pricked forward with laser-like focus, his tail straightened into a rigid line that spoke of absolute certainty, and his nostrils flared as he tried to isolate and identify the source of the concerning scent that had triggered every alarm bell in his highly trained consciousness. Grady noticed the change immediately. After 3 years of partnership, he could read Atlas's body language like a book written in a language of muscle tension and subtle movements that spoke volumes about threats lurking beyond human perception. When the dog suddenly stopped and turned toward the girls' restroom area, positioning himself like a 4-legged sentinel guarding against an invisible enemy, every instinct Grady had developed as a law enforcement officer began screaming that something was terribly wrong in their small corner of suburban America. The hallway continued its normal flow around them, students laughing and rushing to classes, completely unaware that they were about to witness the beginning of what could have been an unthinkable tragedy, prevented only by the incredible sensory abilities of one remarkable dog who refused to ignore what his nose was telling him about the danger that walked among them disguised as just another ordinary school day. Lena approached the restroom with her backpack bouncing against her hip, her mind focused on the upcoming math test and the argument she'd had with her best friend over the weekend, blissfully unaware that she carried within her possession something that could have changed the trajectory of hundreds of lives in the most horrific way imaginable. When she saw Atlas blocking her path, his powerful frame planted like an immovable mountain between her and her destination, confusion flickered across her young face like the shadow of clouds passing over sunlight. The dog's growl started low, so deep it seemed to emerge from the earth itself, vibrating. Through the floor tiles and into the bones of every student within earshot, a primal sound that reached back through millions of years of evolution to warn of mortal danger that lurked just beneath the surface of their ordinary Monday morning routine. Students began to stop and stare, their conversations dying mid-sentence as phones emerged from pockets like weapons, recording what they assumed would be another viral school moment, completely unaware they were documenting the first minutes of what could have been Lincoln Middle School's darkest day. The air around them seemed to thicken with tension as Atlas maintained his position, his amber eyes locked onto Lena's backpack with the kind of intensity that spoke of certainty beyond doubt. His entire being focused on the threat he could smell, but couldn't explain to the humans who depended on him to keep them safe from dangers they couldn't even imagine existed in their world of textbooks and teenage drama. Officer Grady approached, the scene with the careful precision of someone who had learned to trust his partner's instincts above all else, his years of experience teaching him that when Atlas displayed this level of alertness, ignoring it could mean the difference between life and death for everyone in the vicinity. The dog's behavior was unlike anything Grady had witnessed before, not the excited energy of finding drugs or the focused determination of tracking a suspect, but something deeper and more urgent that spoke of imminent danger requiring immediate action. Lena's voice trembled as she pleaded with Atlas to move, her words carrying the innocent desperation of a teenager who simply wanted to use the restroom before first period, completely unaware that her backpack contained something that could have torn apart the fabric of their entire community in a matter of seconds. The weight of whatever was hidden inside pressed against her back, but she had dismissed it earlier as just another forgotten textbook, or the heavy lunch her mother had packed, never imagining that someone had deliberately placed an object in her possession that could have transformed Lincoln Middle School into a scene of unthinkable tragedy. When Grady gently asked Lena to step back and allow him to examine her backpack, the confusion in her eyes was genuine and heartbreaking, the look of someone whose world was about to be shattered by the realization that she had been used as an unwitting pawn in someone else's deadly game. The hallway fell silent as Grady's hands moved toward the zipper, every student holding their breath as if they could sense the gravity of the moment, without understanding why their morning routine had suddenly transformed into something that felt like the opening scene of their worst nightmares. Atlas's growl intensified as the backpack opened, his sensitive nose immediately detecting the chemical signatures that confirmed his worst suspicions about the threat hidden among textbooks and teenage belongings. Inside, nestled between innocent school supplies, sat a small black case that seemed to pulse with malevolent energy, its hard plastic surface concealing a tangle of wires and components that had no business existing in a place dedicated to learning and growth. The moment Grady lifted the case from the backpack, Atlas's behavior shifted into something even more urgent, his barking sharp and insistent as if trying to communicate the magnitude of the danger they were all facing. When the case opened to reveal red and green wires wrapped around batteries and connected to a blinking device that pulsed like a dying heartbeat. The hallway erupted in gasps and whispered prayers as students pressed themselves against lockers, their faces drained of color as the reality of their situation began to sink in. Lena collapsed to her knees, her voice breaking as she sobbed denials and pleas for understanding, her silver backpack now empty, but forever changed from an innocent school accessory into evidence of a plot that could have claimed hundreds of young lives in the span of heartbeats. Lena's sobbing echoed through the hallway like the sound of innocence being shattered, her tears falling onto the cold tile floor as she repeated over and over, that she had no idea how the device had found its way into her backpack, her voice carrying the desperate honesty of someone whose world had just collapsed around her in ways she never could have imagined possible. The other. Students watched in horrified fascination as their ordinary Monday morning transformed into something that belonged in their worst nightmares rather than the familiar corridors of Lincoln Middle School, their phones still recording, but their laughter now replaced by whispered fears and growing panic. Officer Grady knelt beside the trembling girl, his voice gentle but urgent as he pressed her for information that could save lives, knowing that every second counted when dealing with explosive devices that could be triggered by any number of factors beyond their control. Through her tears, Lena managed to explain that Senora Vega, her Spanish teacher, had approached her that morning before classes began, asking her to hold a package until after first period because she had forgotten something important in the restroom and needed someone trustworthy to keep it safe. The words tumbled out between sobs as Lena described how normal everything had seemed, how Senora Vega had smiled and thanked her for being so helpful, never mentioning what was actually inside the innocent-looking case that now sat on the floor like a malevolent presence, threatening everything they held dear. Atlas continued his agitated pacing, his behavior clearly indicating that the threat they had discovered was only the beginning of something much larger and more dangerous than anyone had initially realized, his superior senses picking up additional chemical signatures that suggested this carefully. Orchestrated plot extended far beyond a single device hidden in a student's backpack. The bomb squad arrived with the controlled chaos of professionals who dealt with life-and-death situations on a regular basis, their heavy equipment and protective gear creating an atmosphere of serious danger that made even the most skeptical students understand that this was no drill or false alarm. As technicians examined the device with instruments designed to detect the slightest hint of explosive material, their faces grew increasingly grim behind protective visors, confirming what Atlas had known from the moment his nose first detected the chemical signatures that didn't belong in their world of teenage concerns and academic responsibilities. The revelation that Senora Vega, a trusted educator who had been part of the Lincoln Middle School family for years, was somehow involved in this plot, sent shockwaves through the gathering crowd of staff and emergency responders, challenging everything they thought they knew about the people they trusted with their children's safety and education. When the bomb squad confirmed that while the device wasn't immediately active, it contained all the components necessary to create a devastating explosion, the weight of what could have happened settled over everyone, like a suffocating blanket of fear and gratitude that Atlas's extraordinary senses had prevented an unthinkable tragedy from unfolding in their community. The search for Senora Vega transformed Lincoln Middle School into a battlefield where every corner could hide additional threats and every shadow might conceal the evidence needed to prevent further catastrophe from striking their community with the devastating force of carefully planned violence. Atlas's agitation had not diminished despite the discovery of the first device. Instead, his behavior suggested that his sensitive nose was detecting additional chemical signatures that painted an olfactory map of danger extending throughout the building like a spiderweb of potential destruction waiting to be triggered. Officer Grady followed his partner's lead as they moved through corridors that had suddenly transformed from familiar pathways into potential crime scenes, every step calculated to avoid disturbing evidence while pursuing threats that remained invisible to human senses but blazed like beacons to Atlas's extraordinary olfactory capabilities. The Belgian Malinois led them toward the staff parking lot, his nose working overtime to process the complex mixture of scents that told a story of preparation and deception stretching back much further than anyone had initially realized, his training guiding him toward evidence that would reveal the true scope of the conspiracy that had infiltrated their supposedly safe, educational environment. When they discovered Senora Vega's abandoned car with its door ajar and another suspicious package visible on the passenger seat, the pieces of a much larger puzzle began falling into place with terrifying clarity that suggested this attack had been planned with methodical precision, designed to maximize casualties and chaos. Atlas's reaction to the vehicle was immediate and decisive, his body language communicating absolute certainty that they had found another piece of the deadly network that someone had woven throughout their school with the patience and determination of a predator stalking unsuspecting prey. The second device, more sophisticated than the first, contained components that made even experienced bomb technicians pause in their examination, recognizing the hallmarks of someone with advanced knowledge of explosive systems and the ruthless determination to use that knowledge against innocent children and dedicated educators. As emergency responders cordoned off the parking lot and began a systematic search of the entire campus, Atlas continued his relentless pursuit of sense that led them deeper into a conspiracy that had transformed their school from a place of learning into a potential killing field, where every classroom could hide another threat. The discovery that Senora Vega had not acted alone became apparent when surveillance footage revealed her meeting with an unidentified man in the school parking lot the previous week, their conversation brief but clearly purposeful, as packages changed hands with the efficiency of people who had rehearsed their roles in this deadly drama. Atlas's ability to track the chemical signatures left behind by multiple devices allowed law enforcement to understand that they were dealing with a coordinated attack involving several individuals who had spent considerable time and effort planning something that could have rivaled the worst school tragedies in American history, their meticulous preparation evident in every aspect of the plot that was slowly being unraveled by one dog's extraordinary senses and unwavering determination to protect the innocent lives that depended on his abilities. The manhunt for Senora Vega transformed from a school emergency into a full-scale law enforcement operation that stretched across the entire district, with Atlas leading the charge as investigators followed a trail of chemical evidence that painted a picture of betrayal and deception extending far beyond the walls of Lincoln Middle School. Officer Grady watched his partner work with the focused intensity of a predator closing in on its prey, the dog's powerful frame moving with fluid grace as his nose processed scent molecules that told stories invisible to human perception but crystal clear to his extraordinary olfactory system. The Belgian Malinois had picked up Senora Vega's trail in the parking lot, his head low to the ground as he followed a path that led away from the school and into the residential neighborhood beyond, each step bringing them closer to answers that could prevent additional attacks from claiming innocent lives. Atlas's behavior indicated that the chemical signatures he was tracking were fresh, suggesting that their quarry was still in the immediate area and possibly preparing to trigger additional devices that remained hidden throughout their community like ticking time bombs, waiting for the right moment to unleash their destructive potential. The coordination between multiple law enforcement agencies created a web of communication that allowed every piece of evidence to be shared instantly, building a comprehensive picture of a conspiracy that had been months in the planning and involved individuals who had infiltrated their school system with the specific intent of causing maximum casualties among students and staff. When Atlas suddenly stopped at the entrance to a narrow alley behind a row of maintenance buildings, his body language shifted into the heightened alertness that Grady had learned to recognize as an indication that they were approaching something significant in their investigation. The dog's hackles rose as he detected scents that spoke of recent human presence, mixed with the chemical signatures that had become all too familiar during their search for additional explosive devices hidden throughout their community. Grady radioed for backup as Atlas began tracking a path that led deeper into the industrial area behind the school, following invisible trails that revealed the careful planning and preparation that had gone into an attack designed to terrorize their community and destroy the sense of safety that parents and children had always associated with their local educational institutions. The discovery of the abandoned warehouse, where chemical residues indicated the assembly of multiple explosive devices, confirmed their worst fears about the scope and sophistication of the plot they were unraveling. Evidence scattered throughout the building, painting a picture of individuals who had spent considerable time and resources preparing for an attack that could have claimed hundreds of lives. Atlas's continued agitation despite their discoveries suggested that additional threats remained active somewhere in their community, his sensitive nose detecting chemical signatures that indicated their investigation was far from over, and that the immediate danger to innocent lives had not yet been fully eliminated by their efforts to track down everyone involved in this carefully orchestrated conspiracy against their school and community. The abandoned warehouse revealed its secrets slowly, each piece of evidence adding another layer to the horrifying picture of what Senora Vega and her accomplices had planned for Lincoln Middle School, their methodical preparation evident in the chemical residues that Atlas detected throughout the building, like invisible fingerprints of malevolent intent. Officer Grady moved carefully through the space, following his partner's lead, as the Belgian Malinois tracked scent trails that painted an olfactory map of conspiracy and betrayal, extending far beyond anything they had initially imagined possible in their quiet suburban community. The dog's nose led them to workbenches where explosive components had been assembled with surgical precision, evidence of expertise that suggested at least one member of their group possessed advanced technical knowledge and access to materials that should have been impossible for civilians to obtain through legitimate channels. Atlas's behavior became increasingly agitated as they moved deeper into the warehouse, his sensitive detection capabilities picking up chemical signatures that indicated recent activity and the possibility that additional devices remained unaccounted for in their investigation. When they discovered surveillance photos of Lincoln Middle School pinned to a wall alongside detailed floor plans and student schedules, the true scope of the planned attack became clear with chilling precision that revealed months of careful observation and planning designed to maximize casualties during peak student population periods. The evidence suggested that the attack was scheduled to coincide with the school's annual assembly, when the entire student body and faculty would be gathered in the gymnasium like sitting ducks waiting for slaughter at the hands of people they had trusted with their children's education and safety. Atlas suddenly alerted to a sound that human ears couldn't detect, his head snapping toward a door at the rear of the warehouse as his body tensed with the coiled energy of a predator, preparing to spring into action against threats that remained hidden but clearly present. Grady drew his weapon as they approached the door, trusting his partner's senses above all else as they prepared to confront whatever dangers waited beyond the threshold of their investigation. The confrontation that followed would test every aspect of their training and partnership, as Senora Vega and her accomplice revealed. To be the substitute teacher, Mr. Doyle attempted to escape through a network of tunnels that connected the warehouse to the school's utility systems. Atlas's pursuit through the underground passages demonstrated the full extent of his tracking abilities as he followed scent trails through conditions that would have defeated electronic detection systems, his determination to protect innocent lives driving him forward despite the challenging environment that threatened to overwhelm even his extraordinary senses. The final confrontation in the school's boiler room, where additional explosive devices had been hidden among the mechanical systems that served the entire building, revealed the true extent of a plot that could have claimed every life in Lincoln Middle School and traumatized their community for generations to come, with the kind of senseless violence that destroys faith in the basic safety of places where children should feel protected and free to learn without fear. The confrontation in the boiler room unfolded with the intensity of a nightmare given flesh, steam pipes hissing overhead, while Atlas cornered Senora Vega and Mr. Doyle among the mechanical systems they had chosen as hiding places for their instruments of mass destruction, their faces revealing the cold calculation of individuals who had planned to murder hundreds of children without a trace of remorse or human compassion. Officer Grady kept his weapon trained on the pair as Atlas maintained his aggressive stance, the dog's instincts keeping him positioned between the suspects and the explosive devices they had hidden among the pipes and electrical systems that served the entire school building with deadly precision. The revelation that their plot extended far beyond simple terrorism became apparent when Doyle began speaking, his words revealing a twisted ideology that blamed the education system for society's problems and saw the murder of innocent children as a justified response to perceived injustices that existed only in their warped perception of reality. Senora Vega's motivation proved even more disturbing, her confession revealing years of resentment toward students and administrators who she believed had failed to appreciate her contributions to the school, her bitterness festering into homicidal rage that sought to punish an entire community for imagined slights and professional disappointments. The technical sophistication of their devices became clear as bomb. Technicians worked to dismantle explosives that had been carefully integrated into the school's infrastructure, each component placed with surgical precision to maximize structural damage and ensure that escape routes would be blocked when their attack commenced during the planned assembly. Atlas's continued alertness despite the capture of both suspects indicated that additional threats remained hidden throughout the building, his sensitive nose detecting chemical signatures that suggested their investigation had uncovered only part of a larger network of explosive devices designed to turn Lincoln Middle School into a death trap for everyone inside. The discovery of timing mechanisms synchronized to activate during specific periods when student population density would be at its highest revealed the methodical planning that had gone into an attack designed to rival the worst school tragedies in American history, their calculations based on detailed observations of daily routines and special events that brought the entire school community together in vulnerable concentrations. Evidence found in Doyle's apartment later revealed connections to extremist groups that had been planning similar attacks at schools across the region, their network using educators and substitute teachers as inside agents who could access buildings and plant devices without arousing suspicion from security systems or vigilant staff members. The psychological profiles that emerged during interrogation painted pictures of individuals whose hatred had consumed their humanity, transforming trusted educators into potential mass murderers who saw children as acceptable casualties in their war against a society they believed had rejected and marginalized their twisted worldview and dangerous ideological beliefs. The systematic search of Lincoln Middle School transformed into a race against time as Atlas led bomb technicians through corridors and classrooms where additional devices remained hidden like deadly secrets waiting to claim innocent lives, his extraordinary senses guiding them to threats that could have activated at any moment without warning. The Belgian Malinois worked with focused intensity that demonstrated the full scope of his training and natural abilities, his nose processing chemical signatures that revealed the locations of explosive devices concealed within air vents, utility closets, and even inside seemingly innocent maintenance equipment that served the daily operations of their educational facility. Officer Grady watched his partner navigate the building with the precision of a surgeon, each detection potentially saving dozens of lives as bomb squad personnel carefully extracted devices that had been designed to create maximum casualties among students and staff who trusted their school to provide a safe environment for learning and growth. The discovery of motion-activated triggers attached to several devices revealed the sophistication of a plot that anticipated law enforcement response and had been designed to claim additional victims among first responders who would rush to help injured students and teachers during the initial chaos of their planned attack. Atlas's ability to differentiate between various chemical signatures allowed investigators to prioritize their search efforts, focusing first on devices with active timing mechanisms before moving to those that required manual activation or external triggers that might be controlled remotely by accomplices who remained at large. The evacuation of Lincoln Middle School proceeded with military precision as students and staff were moved to safe distances while specialized teams worked to neutralize threats that could have transformed their campus into a scene of unimaginable devastation and community trauma that would have lasted for generations. Each device that Atlas located revealed new aspects of the conspiracy's scope and sophistication, evidence pointing to extensive preparation and technical expertise that suggested involvement by individuals with specialized knowledge of explosive systems and building infrastructure that went far beyond what amateur terrorists could typically access or understand. The psychological pressure of working against unknown deadlines created an atmosphere of controlled urgency where every decision carried life and death consequences for hundreds of innocent people who depended on law enforcement and K-9 teams to identify and neutralize threats before they could fulfill their deadly purpose. Atlas's stamina and determination never wavered, despite hours of intensive searching, his training and natural instincts driving him to continue working even when fatigue began to affect the human members of their team, demonstrating the extraordinary dedication that defines the partnership between law enforcement officers and their canine partners in situations where failure means unthinkable tragedy for entire communities. The final device discovered by Atlas represented the most sophisticated and dangerous component of the entire conspiracy, hidden within the school's main electrical system, where its detonation would have caused a catastrophic fire that could have trapped hundreds of students and staff in a burning building, with no hope of escape from the inferno that would have consumed everything they held dear. The Belgian Malinois alerted to the threat with an intensity that surpassed even his previous discoveries, his body language communicating absolute certainty that they had found the centerpiece of a plot designed to ensure maximum casualties through multiple vectors of destruction that would have overwhelmed any emergency response capabilities. Officer Grady felt his heart race as bomb technicians examined the device that Atlas had located, their faces grim behind protective equipment as they recognized the hallmarks of military-grade explosives combined with incendiary components that would have created an unstoppable firestorm throughout the building's infrastructure. The timing mechanism attached to this final device revealed the true timeline of the planned attack, synchronized to activate during the school's monthly fire drill, when students would be gathered in predetermined locations that had been carefully mapped by the conspirators to ensure optimal kill zones where escape would be impossible. Atlas maintained his vigilant stance throughout the delicate disarmament process, his senses monitoring for any additional threats that might have been overlooked during their systematic search of the building, his extraordinary abilities serving as a final safeguard against oversight or miscalculation that could have proven fatal. The technical complexity of the electrical system integration required specialists from multiple agencies working in coordination, each step of the disarmament process carrying the potential for triggering secondary devices or fail-safe mechanisms designed to prevent exactly the kind of intervention that law enforcement was attempting to accomplish. Evidence recovered from the device itself included fingerprints and DNA traces that would later connect additional conspirators to the plot, revealing a network of extremists who had infiltrated multiple school districts with the intent of coordinating simultaneous attacks that would have traumatized the entire nation and destroyed public confidence in educational safety. The psychological toll of working with such devastating potential for tragedy affected every member of the response team, but Atlas remained focused solely on his mission to protect innocent lives, his dedication serving as an inspiration to human colleagues who struggled with the emotional weight of confronting pure evil disguised as trusted educators. When the final wire was cut and the threat neutralized, the collective exhale of relief from everyone present seemed to deflate the atmosphere of tension that had sustained them through hours of life-and-death decision-making. But Atlas continued his alert posture until his handler confirmed that their mission was complete and the building was finally safe for the return of students and staff who had no idea how close they had come to experiencing unimaginable horror. In the aftermath of the Lincoln Middle School crisis, several unsung heroes emerged whose contributions proved crucial to preventing what could have been one of the deadliest school attacks in American history, their stories often overshadowed by the dramatic narrative of Atlas's explosive detection work, but equally important to the successful resolution of a conspiracy that threatened an entire community's sense of safety and security. Lena Marquez, the student who had unknowingly carried the first device, demonstrated remarkable courage during the investigation by providing detailed information about her interactions with Senora Vega, despite the psychological trauma of discovering she had been used as an unwitting accomplice in a plot to murder her classmates and teachers. The young girl's precise recall of conversations and behavioral observations helped investigators understand the timeline of the conspiracy and identify additional suspects who might have escaped detection without her cooperation and bravery in the face of overwhelming circumstances. Maintenance Supervisor Jake Morrison played a critical role by providing detailed blueprints and access codes that allowed bomb technicians to navigate the school's complex infrastructure systems where devices had been hidden with surgical precision, his intimate knowledge of the building's mechanical systems proving invaluable when seconds counted in the race to locate and neutralize threats. The school's administrative staff, led by Principal Catherine Wells, executed emergency protocols with military precision that ensured orderly evacuation and communication with parents who descended on the school in panic after learning of the crisis, their professional composure under extreme pressure preventing the kind of chaos that could have interfered with law enforcement operations. Detective Sarah Chen, working behind the scenes to coordinate multiple agencies and process evidence from the crime scenes, uncovered the financial trail that revealed how the conspirators had acquired explosive materials and identified their connections to larger extremist networks, operating throughout the region with similar deadly intentions. The bomb squad technicians, whose names rarely appear in news reports but whose expertise made the difference between life and death for hundreds of people, worked with steady hands and nerves of steel to dismantle devices that could have detonated at any moment, their specialized training and experience preventing catastrophic explosions that would have devastated the community. Atlas's veterinary support team, including Dr. Maria Rodriguez, who had designed his specialized training regimen for explosive detection, deserved recognition for developing the protocols that enabled his extraordinary performance during the crisis. Their scientific approach to K9 training, creating capabilities that exceeded even the most optimistic expectations. The psychological counselors who worked with traumatized students and staff in the weeks following the incident helped heal emotional wounds that could have festered into long-term trauma. Their professional expertise ensuring that the community could recover from an experience that challenged everything they believed about safety in educational environments where children should feel protected and free to learn. The Lincoln Middle School incident stands as a testament to the extraordinary bond between humans and canines that has evolved over thousands of years into partnerships capable of detecting threats that exist beyond the limits of human perception, yet questions remain about how many other conspiracies might be developing in the shadows of our communities, hidden among trusted individuals who have access to our most vulnerable populations. Atlas returned to his regular duties with the quiet dignity of a professional who had simply done his job. But those who witnessed his performance that day understood they had seen something remarkable, a demonstration of sensory capabilities so advanced they bordered on the supernatural, detecting chemical signatures that revealed deadly intentions before they could manifest into unthinkable tragedy. The investigation that followed uncovered a network of extremist cells operating within educational systems across multiple states, their members using positions of trust and authority to gain access to schools where they could plant devices and gather intelligence for coordinated attacks that would have shattered the nation's sense of security in places where children should feel safest. Officer Grady often reflects on the invisible threads of scent that Atlas follows through their daily patrols, wondering what other secrets might be drifting through the air around them, undetected by human senses, but perfectly clear to his partner's extraordinary olfactory system that processes information in ways science is only beginning to understand. The psychological profiles of Senora Vega and her accomplices revealed disturbing patterns of radicalization that developed slowly over years of perceived grievances and ideological manipulation, transforming educators into potential mass murderers who saw children as acceptable casualties in their war against a society they blamed for their personal failures and professional disappointments. The technical sophistication of their planned attack raised troubling questions about how extremist groups recruit individuals with specialized knowledge and access to sensitive locations, exploiting the very trust that makes educational institutions function effectively while turning that trust into a weapon against innocent lives. Parents throughout the district struggled with the realization that danger could emerge from within the system they trusted to protect their children, forcing difficult conversations about security measures that might be necessary without destroying the open, welcoming atmosphere that defines effective educational environments where learning and growth can flourish. The broader implications of the conspiracy extend far beyond Lincoln Middle School, highlighting vulnerabilities in security systems that rely primarily on technology while underestimating the value of biological detection capabilities that have been refined through millions of years of evolution into instruments of protection more sensitive than any machine. Atlas continues his work with the same quiet dedication that characterized his performance during the crisis, but those who know his story understand that walking beside them is a guardian whose senses can detect threats that remain invisible to human perception, leaving observers to wonder what other dangers he might be sensing in the seemingly peaceful corridors of their daily lives, and whether his vigilant presence is all that stands between their community and catastrophes that could emerge without warning from the darkness that lurks behind familiar faces and trusted institutions. And you, have you ever witnessed any heroic animal act? Tell us your story in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss the next videos.